Hi, everyone. Great welcome. I'm Avery. I'm an investor at Thrive Capital, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Alexey, who is the co-founder, creator, and CTO of ClickHouse. So thank you for being with us. I actually wanted to start with a quick poll. Who in the audience knows what ClickHouse is already?
Oh, so many people. Happy to see you.
How many people are actually using ClickHouse? Okay, we have a handful.
You are my friends.
We might have our work cut out for us. So maybe we can kick it off there. For those who are unfamiliar, can you help just explain ClickHouse as you would to a 12-year-old?
So ClickHouse is a real-time analytical database. But if you are like 12 years old, let me say by a certain analogy. What is a database and what is a database management system? A database, maybe we can imagine it like a library with books, with a lot of bookshelves. And database management system is something or someone like a librarian that is able to organize all this information. And ClickHouse is a special kind of database, analytical database. So if we imagine that a regular database reads books like one page after another page, analytical database takes all the shelves of books and read all of them at once and summarize this information to get some interesting statistics, interesting new insights about the data in that books.
And among even just other analytical databases, what makes ClickHouse special?
ClickHouse is fast, resource efficient, and it is open source. Today, ClickHouse is the most popular open source analytical database. So if you need analytics, the first and the obvious and probably the only choice is to use ClickHouse.
Love it. So it was alluded to in the intro, but ClickHouse has a very rich backstory. You started building it in 2009. It got open sourced. You invested behind the open source, and then ultimately decided in 2021 to spin it out as an independent company. And you were the original creator. I think the last time I checked, you were still writing. You were the majority of commits. I think you were committing as early as this morning, or as recently. What was maybe the original need that you were trying to solve, and why did you have to write a new database when you actually created the software?
Mm-hmm. It started back in 2009. I was working on a system to do analytics for websites. It had to collect page views from the internet, a lot of page views, like about 10% of all the internet. Hundreds of billions of records about page views every day. The same for websites and the same for mobile applications. And it had, at the same time, get all of these events in real time and also be able to generate custom reports. So something that end user will define. Like end user will define, I want to reports by countries, but only for users that have been on this website for at least a week. And it has to do these reports interactively, so in less than a second. And I was testing many different databases, many different technologies. So maybe you would not believe, but the first version of the product, it used MySQL. But when it approached about 50 terabytes, it stopped working well, and it cannot generate custom reports. I started to test other solutions, analytical databases. It is not a new thing. They exist since like 80s. But some of them did not support compression as well as we needed. Some of them were not cost efficient and would cost too much for this particular task. Some of them would just bankrupt our company if we try to pay for them on our scale with petabytes of data. And I decided to try to make like a small prototype, just to experiment, to write some code in C++, because I know C++, and I can write code. So I started experimenting and made a prototype. And also, I thought that maybe I can generalize this prototype a little bit so it will be applicable to more broad use cases. Not just like page views, but also for e-commerce, business intelligence, a lot of different use cases. I implemented it like a SQL database. I have published documentation inside the company, and more departments, more and more people started using ClickHouse. And I noticed that it is actually a nice niche where no similar technologies existed. And then I decided to try to convince for open sourcing it. And surprisingly, it went well.
It went very well. Yeah, I feel like it's the classic better, faster, and cheaper. It's a good value prop. Very quickly, I think, after it was open sourced, it had product market fit, right? I know Cloudflare was running their CDN on it, a handful of other really large technology companies with the most high performance needs were running on ClickHouse. What actually gave you the conviction after that in 2021 to go start the company and build a commercial product around it? And was that kind of an interesting moment for you from going from a creator of a very successful open source project to actually the founder of a new technology company?
It was not hard, actually. So we had this open source product since 2016. And in 2020, we already had records about thousands of companies using this product. And many of those companies would use the service for ClickHouse if it existed. But it did not exist. And in late 2020 and 2021, we literally had potential investors knocking my door and asking, am I going to do anything with ClickHouse because I'm sitting on this treasure and we should do something. And eventually I met my co-founders and they found good partners, good investors. So it was quite obvious.
I think there were many stories of people flying to meet you to try to give you money, but I think, yeah, the team actually coming together seemed like it was a necessary precursor and prerequisite for it to actually take off and for you to go all in on it. Well, evidently it was the right choice. The company has been very successful. After launching the product in 2022, you've already reached over 100 million of ARR. You raised a $350 million Series C this year, more than 2,000 customers, and logos that most people would be very jealous of. Microsoft, Sony, Spotify, Cursor, Anthropic, and it's just working extremely well. When things work that well, I think a lot of things break. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit of your reflections on, company journey so far. What have been some of the challenges on scaling it, not just as a technology, but actually as an entire company?
One of the main challenges is to keep the focus in the product development. Because there are so many things that we can potentially do. And we have to choose between like thousands of different tracks. But if we choose the wrong one, we can lose the attention to details in the core product. We can lose like the opportunity to polish it enough and to make a reliable product. And there are many different ways to package the product, like fully managed cloud service, or a cloud service running in your account, or a service for on-premise customers, or commercial support. And it's actually a non-obvious choice. Every time you hear, you have to do this, you have to do that. And it's a hard decision every time. And sometimes there are a lot of uncertainty, a lot of thoughts that maybe mistakes were made, maybe we are on the right track, maybe not.
Yeah, the packaging is very challenging. Everyone wants it on their own cloud in a BYOC, very demanding customers. On the focus point, I'm curious, what has worked in terms of driving the product roadmap in the right direction and not getting spread too thin? Do you listen to customers mostly? Do you listen to the open source community? Is it a little bit of your own intuition?
I always say that we are a customer-focused company, and we do listen to the customers, but it is not easy because there are a lot of feature requests, and many of them look quite random. And if we accept all the feature requests, maybe we will lose the consistency in the architecture of ClickHouse database. So what I have to do, I have to listen to all the customer feedback. I have to also take into account the feedback from the open source users. I have to monitor all these open source feature requests and try to generalize. And sometimes try to explain the customers that probably this particular feature is not the best way to solve the problem, but we can do that particular feature that will take a little bit more time. But we will do it for you, and you will be happy. I talk to customers a lot. This is also my work, not the primary work, but I do it frequently. So I listen to all the feedback, and I can evaluate the complexity from different standpoints. I can evaluate the complexity of the implementation in the code, in the design of the database system, but also I can estimate it from the people perspective. We have particular teams, and everyone is focused on a particular thing. And I'm thinking, OK, this probably will distract that people and also will distract that engineers and product people, and maybe it will worth it, maybe it will not worth it. Maybe we will align the sequence of features in a way that it will be a natural progression for a particular engineering team.
I want to talk about kind of open source and where you choose to release features, but maybe before that, I think probably an underrated element that is driving ClickHouse's success is you, Alexey's obsession with performance. And I know that whenever a new open source database comes out that claims to be faster than ClickHouse, you guys have a benchmark up immediately. I'm curious just like where that comes from for you, and then how you actually drive the team around always not just like maintaining your performance in terms of query time, latency, all of that, but also driving it to be even faster and better.
First of all, I'm very greedy. I want ClickHouse to be the best database. That's simple. So whenever I find that we are doing something not good enough, I'm trying to use it as an opportunity for improvement. But also, it is attention to details. So if I can understand the particular reasons, the particular interaction between the software and the hardware, between the code and the way how it is written, how it is, what is compiled to, how it works on different CPUs, different architectures, it makes obvious what to improve. And then I'm trying to either do it sometimes just by myself. Sometimes I prefer to skip a night of sleep, but instead implement something that was my dream in that particular moment. Maybe it's not a reasonable approach, but I do it.
It seems to be working. And then, yeah, so on the open source side, how do you think about the features that everyone gets through ClickHouse open source versus the things that really go into the managed service that you sell to enterprises?
First of all, open source is an amazing distribution channel for the product. And it is one of the main drivers of the growth. Let's imagine that for any particular customer of our cloud product, there will be 10 more companies using ClickHouse on-premise, self-managed as an open source technology. But if we make it grow as the amount of cloud customers will grow proportionally. And we see that for many companies, open source is far from being enough. They need more. They need a service with a lot of capabilities that you typically don't get in open source, or you have it in open source, but it will require a lot of internal work for your engineers to implement the orchestration behind the service, backups, security. And you need a service you can count on. You need a service that will solve problems with scalability, with distributed systems. And this is what ClickHouse Cloud for.
So it actually it's in your best interest for the open source to be as good as possible because it ultimately drives the business.
Sure, I want as many companies as possible using ClickHouse in open source and in the cloud.
I'd love to talk a little bit about hiring. So a lot of your engineering team is in Amsterdam, and there's a handful that are distributed. And it's a complex product. It's a high-performance database. The engineering talent market is as competitive as ever. How have you guys managed to scale the engineering org while keeping a very high bar?
This is actually a very complex problem. So we cannot hire too many people too quickly. And actually, no company can do it without losing the culture. And one of the main factors is keeping the continuity of engineering culture. And not only engineering culture, it's across all the company. And if we imagine like a small startup with 10 people, and we can imagine hypothetically what will happen if this small startup will get a chance to hire like 100 more people in a single day from a big company like Google. If we do this, they immediately will lose one of their competitive advantages, the engineering culture, something that makes the team unique. So it is more like gradual and very careful hiring, and it is especially important in the leadership team, executive hires, because
Suboptimal hire.
Let's say suboptimal hire, it will just contaminate the company and it will be over. So my approach, when I interview people, even if they are not engineers, I ask them to try our product, to test it during 2 weeks, and share the feedback. Tell me why my product is not good. How can it be even better? And people do this exercise successfully. And by the way, for my co-founder, Aaron, I even made him to write the code.
He does. He has a commit in the open source. I think probably most folks up here today were talking about AI at some point, so we probably should too. In many ways, it feels like the performance and capabilities of ClickHouse. The core bet on the technology was really there's going to be a lot more data over time. It's going to matter more, and businesses are going to need to extract value out of it at a faster and faster rate to stay competitive. That was probably a safe bet no matter what, the way that the world was going, but I think AI has poured fuel on that fire, really accelerated that insight. There's a handful of customers that are using it in really unique ways, but maybe you could just talk about how AI is changing the use cases that are showing up in the ClickHouse funnel for your customers.
In many areas, like business intelligence, these areas are already being transformed with AI in the front of our eyes. I think that in a few years, most of queries to a database will be written not by people, but by AI agents. And we will just ask questions. We will not write SQL. And it is already happening. For example, we use it for our internal business intelligence. We collect the observability data and business metrics about our customers. And whenever we have to come up with a certain report, like what are the services doing the most S3 API requests that we pay for, and what are the costs of these requests. We just ask our AI agent. And we introduced the service like a year ago using the ClickHouse MCP server. But now, just a few months ago, we made it available for all ClickHouse Cloud customers. So you can just use an agent to make a series of queries to ClickHouse. And one of the problems is that when a human writes a query, there is a certain limit. Humans got tired. Agents do not. They will write more and more queries. And the amount of queries and the demand for fast processing is significantly increasing with the introduction of AI agents. Actually, it's a whole new direction, agentic analytics.
Yeah, way more demanding. I know you're also working with a handful of the large labs, OpenAI is one, using you guys just for a core observability use case, which is something, it's a bread and butter use case for ClickHouse. What is it that, I think when you would talk to these engineers, by the way, and you say like, oh, why are you using ClickHouse over XYZ? Their answer is usually like nothing else actually worked for this scale of data and what we needed and our requirements. What are the things that you think you guys are making possible today that were not possible with other systems just a few years ago?
So OpenAI is using ClickHouse, Anthropic is using ClickHouse, XAI, DeepSeek, all of them are using ClickHouse, and also Cursor, Lovable, all of these companies. And you might ask why. For observability, for events, everything that is happening when you interact with ChatGPT or Claude, all the data about its performance, latency. And the main challenge is that actually OpenAI and Anthropic are the new Google. So now more and more people just use chat interfaces instead of search systems. And you can imagine the traffic. Imagine like all the traffic in Google. Now you can divide like a few times, and everything about this traffic should be analyzed inside a database. And the only database that is capable of doing that is ClickHouse. It scales to distributed clusters, to hundreds of petabytes of data. It supports real-time and historical data in the same database, and real-time queries on top of this data. So when you release a new service, and you have dashboards, and you monitor how the traffic spikes, if everything works correctly in all your data centers in all regions, these dashboards go to ClickHouse.
It's amazing. As we wrap up here, I'm curious, looking forward, what is maybe one thing on the product and technology side that you're really looking forward to releasing? It could be related to AI or not. And then one thing on the company building side in terms of milestones.
There are many interesting products that we introduced just recently. One of them is named ClickStack. It's a full-featured observability solution based on 3 components. ClickHouse as a backend database, HyperDX as a UI, and OpenTelemetry as an interface. So if any one of you spent a lot of money using services like Datadog, migrate to ClickStack, which is based on ClickHouse and way more cost efficient.
And then what about on the company building side?
It's about the core product, ClickHouse database, and there are many new features, like new types of indexes. Just recently, we introduced the index for full text search. So now you don't have to use Elasticsearch, and you will, if you pay a lot of money for Elasticsearch, also migrate to ClickHouse. And
should also be the head of sales.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sometimes I have to wear many hats.
Love it. Well, thank you, everyone. I think that's all that we have.
Thank you.